These two plants, when mixed together, it's basically a very powerful antifungal, antiviral, antimicrobial, psychedelic medicine that not only heals you physically but emotionally and spiritually as well. And it's a phenomenal, ancient intelligence to tap into. It cures people of, I call it isolation consciousness. We have believed for a very long time, unfortunately, that we're the only intelligent beings on this earth. That has been a very, very destructive and damaging belief. Ayahuasca cures people of that belief system and actually restores the understanding that everything is filled with intelligence.
Con eso, Ayahuasca nos enseña a amar a toda una cosmología indígena, Amaluya, Amaquilla, Amashua, no robar, no mentir, no ser ocioso, vivir cuidando la naturaleza, siempre nosotros y nuestros hijos. Ayahuasca nos enseña a amar a la naturaleza, sino ver la espiritualidad de la tierra para ver el Pachamama.
In 1993, I went to Manaus, which is the capital of Amazonia in Brazil, and we were invited by a syncretic church in Brazil that has legal sanction to use ayahuasca as a psychoactive sacrament in their religious ceremonies. We were invited by them to study their members. We randomly selected 15 members of the União Vegetal, or the UDV, that had been using ayahuasca at least twice monthly in ceremony for at least 10 years. And we had all the data analyzed, and we published our findings in several different medical, psychiatric, and neuroscience journals.
Tell me about your findings.
Well, we found, first of all, that the ayahuasca subjects who had used ayahuasca within the context of the UDV for at least 10 years, that they were all in very good medical condition and good psychological condition. I should also say that with each of the groups, we did structured psychiatric diagnostic interviews. And there we found that whereas with the UDV ayahuasca using subjects, many of them had past histories of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sociopathic behaviors. All of these had entirely remitted or disappeared since their participation in ayahuasca ceremony in the UDV.
I think human beings owe an obligation to tell the truth about their experiences. And there is something to this that's very life-changing. It changed me, for sure. It still is changing me. The experiences, for sure, have made me a better person, a nicer person, more sensitive, more aware of the universe.
The alcoholism entirely disappeared. They stopped drinking, they stopped using drugs, they stopped engaging in antisocial behaviors. It was quite dramatic, what we saw.
Wow. Did you find out how did it work? Why?
Well, it's a great mystery. They had powerful psycho-spiritual experiences.
Ayahuasca can be seen as a doorway, a link between the dimensions. The galactic world, the cosmic perspective. And ayahuasca is like a deep immersion into that kind of experiential understanding of unity. And this unity is liberating. It's a transforming experience. Ayahuasca teaches that we are it, we are nature, we are not separate from it.
What you see, I think, is the morphogenetic field, the invisible world that holds everything together. You don't have to spend 20 years around the ashram.
Ayahuasca to me is a very, very feminine spirit. It's a feminine experience. It's an experience of let go, of surrender, of nurturing, of love, of light, of the heart. It's a holographic library. It speaks to you in visions.
the waking world and the world of the dream become one.
Everything sounds really loud and alive. It feels like the whole forest and everything in it is aware that we're here drinking ayahuasca. I'm seeing iridescent rainbow spirals and complex geometric patterns. Feels like I'm being bombarded by some sort of ancient knowledge, universal consciousness.
They had powerful epiphanies, tremendous insight, realization. For instance, I asked in the life story interviews, I asked each of the subjects to describe for me how they came to the UDV and what they experienced during their very first ayahuasca ceremony. And there was a consistent theme, which was particularly for the subjects who were very dysfunctional with, bad behaviors, antisocial behaviors, drug and alcohol abuse. The theme was that they had a vision of themselves out of control. One man had a vision that he was in a canoe going down the great river, and he was in the rapids, and the canoe was out of control, and he knew that he would die. We had another man who was at an amusement park on a Ferris wheel, and suddenly the wheel started spinning out of control. Stories like that. And they realized that this was really metaphorical for their lives were out of control. They would kill themselves if they did not radically change, radically alter their attitude towards their lives, and really transformed in many respects. They went from often being quite dysfunctional to over time becoming successful out in the world, becoming pillars of the local society, and stopping their addictive behaviors, stopping their violent behaviors. Many of them had been very irresponsible within their family systems. They transformed in those regards also and became highly responsible and became, very, very, they maintained very high standards in regards to being spouses or parents or employers or what have you. However they would interact with people in the world, whether family or at work or friends, their standards of conduct improved tremendously. There are some similarities actually in the electroencephalograms of individuals under the influence of ayahuasca and what you may see in very, very high level meditators, specifically Tibetan meditators. Gamma coherence is the phenomena that's been described. So again, ayahuasca is this fascinating ancient substance used for millennia in the Amazon basin in South America, but only recently has it come to the attention of modern Western science.
And I was feeling like my mind just expand and extend out through the whole web of life. And this was the jungle, so it was very fertile and chirping and lots of animals and all the flora and fauna and extending out through the cities. And somehow, the mind is able to extend and expand out through all these beings. So there was a tremendous, wonderful expansion of interconnectedness with everything. And then there was this wave coming back of the suffering and the pain of all beings, and there's, whoa, like, oh my God, so that's why not everybody is doing the Buddha thing. It's like, because you're opening yourself up to all of the suffering, because you're being the beings, and remember the first noble truth of suffering, so it was all coming home to me.
By the way, ayahuasca there's no recreational use of ayahuasca that has emerged. It's always within ceremony, and ayahuasca has an unusual nature in that it really pushes individuals to do very serious, deep inner work, and it does not lend itself to the frivolity and hedonism that one sees with recreational drugs per se, such as cocaine.
And it teaches you a lot about our assumptions about drugs and our assumptions about this is bad, that's good, and all this nonsense that we get in Western culture, and it just deletes all that stuff and throws it all out, and it educates you in the realization of the abundance of medicines, natural medicines that are available to us.
So this affects really the bonding and what we call love and between among human beings. How does that happen?
Well, it's you can witness during these ayahuasca sessions multi-generation families participating, and these are very wholesome events, and it does appear to facilitate individuals accessing their healthier functional capacity, which includes the capacity to bond with significant others, to experience loving feelings, to experience being in harmony and peace within oneself and within and also with those who are closest to them. So this is an observable fact that one can see. Again, the biologic underpinnings are awaiting further exploration. I think we're beginning to appreciate there was, amongst the indigenous people who we disparagingly refer to as the primitives, I think we're now perceiving that they had very sophisticated levels of knowledge and ability in many areas, including utilization of healing plants. In fact, it's a great tragedy to humanity that much of the indigenous knowledge of healing plants worldwide has been lost because of our general lack of appreciation that this was important knowledge. Ayahuasca is a fascinating area. For me personally, it's been a very, very fulfilling experience to study ayahuasca, and I feel it holds great potential for the future of humanity and the future of this planet.
I think ayahuasca can show us how beautiful we are inside and what kinds of possibilities we have for love and for actions of kindness. One of the great assets of ayahuasca is that it's plants. And, what better way to root ourselves back into the web of nature and a compassion for this web of life than through the plants themselves. The plants are talking to us. We need to listen.